I'm stronger than I've ever been before. When you're feeling weak, we're stronger. We are strong. We're stronger. Stronger than we've ever been before.
Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Stronger with Armstrong. I'm your host, Eddie Armstrong. And today we are in the great city of Little Rock, Arkansas. Shout out to the Honorable Mayor Frank Scott. He would be happy to know that we're talking about where your tax dollars go here in Central Arkansas, the capital city. I am elated about all interviews and super proud of this one. It came to me as they say, a bird's nest on the ground. One of my great mentors, Mr. George McGill, the Honorable Mayor of Fort Smith, Arkansas, invited me to meet this young man and ask him for an interview. His name is Rodney Shepard. Rodney, thank you so much for joining us today. Good handshake. Brother Rodney is a banker. He is the Executive Vice President, actually VP and Regional Executive for Arvest Bank. That's a big, lofty title, but in short, he covers 7 states, I believe, 7 presidents?
7 presidents.
7 presidents and multiple banks around the region. So Arkansas is just one of his many bases, but we're going to let him unpack all of that. The reason that this podcast interview is being brought to you all today is I felt the need, as the evolving times in banking and cryptocurrency and AI and the shift of traditional banking to some degree we're watching happen right now with the federal administration and some bills that have been passed. I wanted you all to know more about just what real community banking was, and I couldn't think of a greater story than a homegrown bank like Arvest Bank, who started as a depository bank, I believe, for Walmart employees.
Yeah, we initially in 1961, Mr. Sam Walton bought controlling interest of the Bank of Bentonville, and we've been a community bank ever since.
True essence of community bank. Shout out to Sam Walton and all that he poured into the state of Arkansas. With $2 billion plus in revenue, roughly?
Top line's about $1.5 billion.
$1.5 billion. We'll pump it up to $2 billion. In the 1990s, I was heading off to the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville and started to watch the evolving of Arvest Bank as banks like McElroy Bank, which was one of my first banks, and Little Rock, Bank of Central Arkansas, I believe it was, or Bank of Little Rock. It was one of those down here. They acquired back in the day, and I think they had like roughly 34% of all deposits today in the Northwest Arkansas region remain with Arvest Bank. Is there somewhere roughly correct?
Yes, sir. That's I would say directionally we're correct. We do have leading market share in Northwest Arkansas.
So when you talk about real community banking, that's just not your everyday employees at Walmart. Those are your farmers, your teachers, your educators, your everyday workers, physical plant workers at the university, all utilizing Arvest Banks. And that's something to really be comfortable with. But before we dive into the business of banking, let's meet Rodney Shepard. Mr. Shepard, please tell us a little bit about yourself. I know a few things. You started with the bank in 1993, I believe.
Yes, sir.
You were a fine husband, a good ball brother, a dad, and a community leader. And I know that because, as I mentioned, the love and respect I have for Mr. George McGill. I won't hold this against you before you tell us about yourself. You're a Boomer Sooner.
That's correct.
And he's an Oklahoman, but we love all, and he's a regional next door Oklahoman. Roland, Oklahoma is his hometown. We were going to have my friend Ron Witherspoon on with us today as well. He is an LSU guy, but he went to the university, so we'll love him the same. Tell us who Rodney Shepard is first as a person and a businessman.
Everyday guy, and that's what I've always wanted to be. Educated, grew up in Oklahoma, Eastern Oklahoma, educated in Oklahoma, as you mentioned, married, 2 kids, 3 grandkids now.
Grandkids?
Yes, sir.
I love it. What are their names?
Chloe, Ava, and Allison.
Hey, Chloe, Ava, and Allison. Shout out to G-Paw. He's on the big screen today. Continue, please.
Let's see. Again, pretty simple. Wandered into banking kind of by accident. College roommate called me. I was reading electric meters in Tulsa, Oklahoma, right out of college. And he just said, hey, are you tired of that? And I enjoyed the company, but, you know, like a lot of folks, got a little antsy, just thinking, you know, I got a college degree, I've been doing this for a year. So fast forward, interviewed and went to work for a finance company. We made smaller consumer-related loans, and I did that in Roland, Oklahoma. After a couple of years of that, transitioned to the bank, spent 10 years there, so got there in '93, and then in 2003, Arvest acquired that institution, and was fortunate enough to be with the company since 2003, and it's been the best thing personally and professionally.
The bank they acquired was located in Oklahoma.
It was located in Fort Smith, Arkansas.
Okay.
It had operations in Oklahoma, but I worked in Fort Smith.
So,
and when I say Roland and Fort Smith for your viewers,
help them understand.
It's 5 or 6 miles. You know, you cross the Arkansas River and you're there.
So he's our cousin, folks. You know, he claimed Oklahoma, and I have no doubt that in 1994, fresh after you had gotten there was a team in Arkansas playing in the national championship.
That may have been.
Maybe you were cheering in Fort Smith, or maybe, I don't know, but shout out to the Hogs and Nolan Richardson. You said you wandered into this. What initially led you to keep pursuing this career after you sunk your teeth into it? And the two parts to that is, what does your leadership style reflect as it relates to the values instilled in you by your family and the job that you do on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so when I went to work, again, my college roommate called. I was reading electric meters in Tulsa, ended up at the finance company, and I enjoyed the work. There were elements of the finance company that I didn't particularly care for, and a coworker had left a year before I did and went to Superior Federal Bank, and he called. We talked, and for lack of better words, interviewed, and I ended up there. But when I got to the bank, there just seemed to be, there was just a sense of family, and that I found at the bank, and I enjoyed the work, and it was similar to the finance company, but with more things to offer, because all we did were loans at the finance company, but the bank offered so much more. And got there because I enjoyed the work, and it's like, I could see myself retiring here. Just my mindset at 25, my mindset was like, that's what I thought. So just never left.
Put the seatbelt on and kept riding.
Yeah, just, you saw an opportunity here to do this. It was still adjacent but related, and so different positions along the way, and I've just enjoyed it. The leadership and what was instilled in me by my parents, grateful for them. We didn't grow up with a silver spoon in our mouth, but by no means did we walk uphill both ways to school in the cold weather and no shoes on, like
y'all know those stories. You've heard them out there.
As Bill Cosby said.
5 below.
But my dual income parents, we were latchkey kids. But everybody that I grew up around, we were in the same boat. But my parents instilled in us, number one, you do what you say. Number two, you get up and you work. You work for what you want, but you get up and you work. Nobody's going to hand you anything. And when I think about, over the years of working with other teammates, either at Superior or at Norwest Financial or here at Arvest, those are the things I'm looking for, and those are the things that I try to coach and be the example of.
Well, that's telling. I couldn't help but think about my wonderful mother. She said, I'll house you, I'll feed you, I'll clothe you, but you got to get up and go earn your own at some point in time, young man. And she did those things, and that's what I'm instilling in my Edison is, the world may be your oyster, but you're going to have to work for what you want in this life. And so I'm grateful to hear that story, that you found something you like and you stuck to it. Our younger viewers out there, I hearken upon that a lot. That it's important that you find something you like, you remain authentic, and you stick to it. Something personal. You said you walked in and it felt good. You're 25. The work was challenging, but you liked it.
Yes, sir.
But what personally or unexpected shaped your leadership style? I asked this of each of my guests. Your secret sauce, your tempo of how you lead your organization and the people of your organization. Did something unexpected happen along your career path that really or shaped you early, other than liking it, the challenge and enjoying the job?
Probably two things. One, I can think back to a teacher I had, and he taught leather crafts and maybe a history class, but I had him for leather crafts. I think back to him as an individual, great man. Unfortunately, he's passed on. That the way he interacted with the students, and I'm 7th or 8th grade back then, but the way he interacted with students, he knew everybody. He asked how they're doing, how their family's doing. How'd you do on this math test? It had nothing to do with him. That's one thing on the positive. On the negative, across my career, doesn't matter if it's, when I worked in Whirlpool, during the summers when I was in college, or I was reading electric meters at Public Service Company of Oklahoma in Tulsa, or Norwest or Superior. I've had some people that have shown me exactly what to not do as a supervisor, and probably as many
people. Through telling you or through example?
Example.
That's a good
through example.
Point that you bring out. My early internships, I never said anything, but I watched and I saw, I won't do that.
Yes.
And I will. So expound on that. When you watch what not to do, how did that shape your tempo?
It's really, what come to my mind back then, and even today, if I ever get the opportunity, I don't know what the opportunity meant. Did it mean leading a small team, one person, or a larger group of people? I will not do what I just witnessed with this individual. So, two different, one positive, one not so positive, but those are probably the things that helped shape how I attempt to lead folks.
So it's the what not to do's.
A
lot of it's in us to know and aptly to get in, do the right things, be of good stature, respect and honor for your family and yourself. But oftentimes you're shown these things and maybe I'd do that a little differently. And somehow it turns out okay. Let's dive into banking. Arvest, in my opinion, there are two banks. The other one remains unknown. I won't speak about them. But growing up in Little Rock and around Central Arkansas as a teenager in college, I used to see great man, Mr. Virgil Miller, all the time throughout the city. And that tag he's always just pristine, sure to represent the bank and the mission. Today he's a city director, but I was always proud to know that he carried his work very importantly, never. And I think that speaks to being a true community bank, helping where you can. Why and how does this work for Arvest to remain resilient and strong and steadfast as a true Arkansas-based community bank? And what do you think sets Arvest apart? And then I'll dive into how many of these banks, but why do you think you guys are one of the truest, still remaining traditional community banks? And how does that set you guys apart from so many new banks?
The first one is relatively easy, and it's built into the DNA of our organization. The things that we think about that we're going to do are for the long term. That's one. The second would be, it's not a tagline inside of our organization. It's the way it is, and it's been that way since day one when I joined the organization. We are committed to the community. Internally, so let's go back to, let's call it May of 2003, because that's when it was announced that Superior was going to be acquired. Shortly after that, we started asking for information about Arvest. And one of the documents were some strategic decisions of the company. And the first one, I don't know if it's intentional or not, but the first one, I've never forgotten this. And if I had my portfolio in here with me, I have a copy of that document from 2003, still in there. The first thing that's mentioned in there are the communities. We are charged by our ownership that we're to work diligently to make the communities that we serve better. And it doesn't matter if it's being involved in the community, serving on different boards and organizations, helping fund businesses so that they can thrive, helping consumers achieve their financial goals or whatever their dreams may be, home purchase, car purchase. whatever the case may be. But we're committed to the community. And then I would say this, back to that long-term focus that I mentioned, the commitment of our ownership, that we're going to do this together for the benefit of the communities that we operate in. Long-term focus, commitment to the community, but also the commitment of our ownership to those two things.
That's really, really important. I reside out here, tax-paying Little Rock citizen right now, here in the Chenal area where you guys have just erected this new facility we're in today. It's a great facility, but every day I drive in, this 2-mile radius has more than 15 banks or so now along this strip. And when you talk about being invested in the community, I know, but maybe my viewers don't, why there are so many banks and what's happening. So I want to dive into something, deposits. Tell us about what's going on with your deposits. Oftentimes, and viewers, you may not know this, your deposits really predict how your banks either grow or shrink. And sometimes those deposits are used in the local communities.
Yes.
And other times they're shipped off to other states like New York and Florida to grow their banking footprints. But Arkansas and Arvest, I know, have remained committed to growing deposits, growing customers, and growing banks here in Arkansas, dating back to when I was in high school. So tell our viewers and tell me and help us understand what's going on with your deposits today. How do deposits work, and what does that mean for community banking?
Well, for community banking in general, I mean, it's the lifeblood. Without them, I mean, we can't loan money. Yes, we can go borrow money to loan it, but that's a different dynamic. But so it's the lifeblood. What we have seen, not only as an organization but as an industry, is it continues to grow as our deposit bases continue to grow. Some better than others. Some of that is based on products. Some of it's based on rates. But again, it's necessary for community banks in general, to have it. And I think potentially the reason you see so many, and I'm not that familiar with this strip, although last night as we went to dinner, I did notice that a couple that I didn't recognize. But why you see so many, because the new entrants or newer entrants, and I'm using that term loosely, they believe that they have a value proposition that they could come to this part of Little Rock or anywhere else and gather deposits because they need them to fund other things, whatever that may be within the organization. For us, one, we try to grow deposits to help our customers, but the other is to benefit the bank in terms of we're going to use those deposits to do other things in the communities that we serve.
Unpack that a little bit more. Deposits shrink, what happens? Or when deposits grow, what happens as it relates to how you help the customer? The more deposits you get, quite naturally, the more leverage you have to make more loans, correct? That's
correct.
Okay,
That's
and
correct.
If you're not getting those deposits, then the latter impact is what?
We could find ourselves, shouldn't just say us, but a financial institution could find itself if deposits were to shrink and there were shrinks low enough, either curbing their ability to extend loans in the communities that they operate in, or the need to go borrow money from the Federal Home Loan Bank or the Federal Reserve to be able to continue to fund loans. But again, to your point, the more deposits a financial institution has or gathers, their ability to loan money back out in the community to drive other growth, that's what they're for.
That's good information for our viewers. What does success look like to you beyond the balance sheet?
Well, a number of things, and for our organization, things that come to mind. I mentioned commitment to the community, and on our specific website, we produce a corporate responsibility report. It's not mandated, but we do put one together as a private organization. But we put that out. Success looks like If you go and look at the thousands of hours of the hundreds of associates that have volunteered in 2024, and this is available again on our website, it's impressive. The number of organizations that we touch across the 4 states that we operate in is impressive. We can talk about, and it's not about just writing a check and moving on, but it does enumerate the amount of money that we contribute back to the communities. But it's the focus of our organization to say we're going to be involved. We're not going to say we're going to be involved. We're going to be involved in the communities, and then we illustrate it. And I'd put a little asterisk on some of the numbers, particularly the volunteer hours. It's not all of them, because some people go and do things and they don't record it for whatever reason. Forgot to do it. Don't think it's important. It's not a big thing, but there's more than we do more than that report illustrates.
Well, that's a great thing. You've got to show transparency as a servant leader and a politico. I feel nothing more important than the constituents or customers than showing accountability and showing transparency so that people are never lost in this quagmire that can sometimes be daunting. Financial industries, not everybody's take. Politics, not everybody's take.
Yeah.
But if you are transparent and you're showing your track record, people can take that away and make their own assessment. A few more questions here, and I'm so grateful for your time. What do you see the biggest shift in banking over the next 5 to 10 years, and how should customers prepare for the future? This is a lead into another question, but let's put a pin there. Over the next 10 years, banking will be different, I feel. It's already different through our phones and multiple ways to get I think you can pay now and pay a little bit on it and pay some more later. I forget what it's called, but they've got so many new products and tools. What do you see the biggest shift in banking over the next 5 to 10 years?
Like everything else in life, it's just going to evolve. And a crude analogy is, decades ago, we took care of farmland by hand. And you fast forward to, horses and whatever else, pulling implements, to smaller tractors, to, now $1 million tractors doing work and almost self-driving, if not self-driving. So banking is going to evolve just like that analogy of how we, prepare land to grow crops and things of that nature. First, I don't think anybody knows specifically what it's going to look like, but in general, I think what I expect, so I'll just say it's me, what I expect, there will continue to be more self-service opportunities for customers. Things that financial institutions offer will be more personalized to individuals. And that's not only from us, I think it's going to come just from the industry. And we'll continue to see innovation, whatever that looks like, we'll continue to see innovation to help people bank either faster, quicker, more convenient. Something that I don't think is going to change, and maybe because I'm, old school, if you will, physical branches still matter. Now, what happens in those branches may change. As an industry, we've seen what you and I know as teller transactions, come in and make a deposit or cash a check and whatever. As an industry and as an organization, we've seen in branch people walking in and do that. That has declined. Why? They can do
I can deposit my check with the picture from my phone.
Yes, sir. You can do that. You can go to an ATM machine. Yeah. But the branch is still important. Mm-hmm. I don't think that changes. But more convenience driven by technology, we can all expect that.
Well, we got a good bit to unpack. That's a huge crossroads. Shout out to one of my family members that owns a community. PBC, I know you're out there. And one of the things I admire about PBC is she owns an amazing community here in Central Arkansas. But in her spare time, she opens up one of her facilities to do financial literacy training for young people. And if these institutions are going to be here in our communities, and we're talking community service, just continue to nudge banks like yours to stay vigilant about how to train young people on banking and access to capital and what financial literacy really is. That is a huge community service need that I see young people lagging in, similar to taking cursive out of schools. Banking is that key. I remember writing my first check and filling out my first balance sheet. It was foreign to me. But if we can capture young people early, I would just encourage you all to keep being big community champions for things like that. If these institutions are going to be here, bring the young people in, have them shadow you, sit them in these conference rooms and teach them there. But the young people that we get a chance to experience each year through PBC's Financial Literacy Camp have been really great. And thanks to many of the banks out there that support her. One or two more questions here. Speaking of technology and the changes of banks, cryptocurrency, fintech apps, AI, are changing the financial landscape as we know it. We just seen the president sign something into order. What role do you see traditional banks like Arvest in this evolving landscape of the future? I mean, it's happening. Yes, and I still don't understand crypto, but it's here. What are we prepared to do for it?
Well, I was hoping you were going to be able to answer the question around crypto. So I would say this. Again, a little bit old school, a little more traditional. I'm having to get up to speed on things like stablecoin and cryptocurrency because I don't necessarily understand it all. Mm-hmm. As it relates to our organization, we have continued to, and we have a specific individual and a small team that's their charge. What's going on out in the environment that we need to pay attention to, and this emphasis on payments is important to our organization because we could potentially see that different rails to make payments folks could end up going around the banks and wouldn't need them. You know, you could store your money in one of these digital assets, cryptocurrency, stablecoin, whatever the case may be. You could store your money there, and you wouldn't necessarily need a bank. That's far-reaching, possible, potentially. I don't know enough about it, but it's something we're having to monitor as an organization. I don't know enough about it to educate, your viewers or you when it comes to that, because I'm trying to get my head wrapped around it myself.
We'll be right back. I want to unpack real briefly, where are you going to be educated? If there are resources and places that our viewers can go to find more information about trusted knowledge around this evolving space, I want to unpack that and then close out with our last two questions. We'll be right back, folks. It's been a very interesting conversation. Welcome back, guys. We're right here at the tail end of a great conversation. And again, Rodney, thank you so much for your time. There has been an uptick in the new community banking niche market space, like niche community banks, niche banks, and products that are recently coming out for home loans. There are always these new products that are evolving. Why do you think that is, and how does it shape the local financial ecosystem of Arkansas? With all of the new uptick in new community banks and niche banks coming to market, you spoke on this briefly, but how do you think that shapes the local financial ecosystem of Arkansas?
Well, it does give consumers more options.
Okay.
No one can deny that. And the great competitors will, in my opinion, will always be great competitors. What it does do, it potentially can dilute the performance of some financial institutions. But I believe in competition. I think it's great and all of that. But I think the reason we see, not only here but in other communities that we operate in, the reason we see this uptick, and I mentioned this earlier, that those institutions see their analysis of a community says we can go play and win, or they wouldn't be here. They're not here for philanthropic reasons. They really believe that there's an opportunity. They see something in the economy, they see something in the rooftops and the population that it's a place that their product set, their value proposition will work there.
As the young people say, send the low. This isn't just happenstance. They're actually methods to the madness. They're dropping the pen. They're looking at the MSA. They're looking at the economics of any area and saying we want to be in this region, this area. There was a lot of talk at one point in time about here in Central Arkansas, banks south of 630 in the interstate, and the whole drying up of banks in the hood or neighborhoods. I've seen some of that shift. We now, under the mayor's leadership and others, have banks in a lot of places that we traditionally didn't see them for a long time in the 90s. What do you say to that in community banking? How does that start to come back to where we're seeing more banks in more places now, as opposed to maybe 10, 15 years ago?
I think it goes back to opportunity. It's probably, from my perspective, less about mandates or leverage. It is about there's opportunity, and the appreciation of the opportunity, no matter what the community is. You know, if it's higher or middle or lower on the socioeconomic scale, there's opportunity, or financial institutions would not invest.
Opportunity. I think we were the land of opportunity or something like that at one point in time. Last question, and this is the home run. Is Arvest Bank and Arkansas as a whole stronger today than it was a decade ago? And if so, why? And then there's a second part to that. Are you stronger, Mr. Shepard, today in your leadership role than you were when you first started with Arvest?
You know, for the state of Arkansas, I'm going to say yes. Now there's some metrics we still, as a state, we trail the nation. Postpartum mortality is one that comes to mind based on a board that I serve on. We probably got some work to do around education, and continue to work on education, access, and then the quality of education. But I think as a state, I think clearly yes. And it's not only some of the economic opportunities that have been created, but those that will come in the future, from my perspective. And because we have those, it will help drive other things. It will help drive more citizens to want to consider the natural state as the place that they want to raise a family. And in the part of the state that I live, when we get that bridge over the Arkansas River, so we'll have Interstate 40 and soon to be Interstate 49 that crisscrosses right there, and then hopefully on down into Louisiana. That corridor, that north-south corridor on I-49, I think it will drive economic activity that will drive other things for the state. So yes, I think the state is much stronger. For me personally, yeah, I get battle tested day in, day out at work, personally, in my personal life, but also at work. Challenges with my faith on occasion. So yeah, I think I'm a stronger person today than I was 10 years ago. I'm trying to think, what was I doing 10 years ago? 10 years ago, I was bank president in Fort Smith, Arkansas for Arvest, and just a number of things I've had to experience in the last 10 years, yeah, I would say. I think that's what helped makes us stronger, is it's not the success, it's the when you fall down and scratch your knee and you get back up.
You're hearing it from two bald gentlemen. Michael Jordan said it. He got his best games in when he was challenged. And it's the challenges of our lives. It's the opportunities. As my mother has said, it's the lessons, never the losses, that allow for you to become stronger. And I can't thank you enough for your time. Yes, though, in Oklahoma Sooner, we're going to call you a homeboy. We are really appreciative that you give your time, your energy, your effort, the challenges you faced to the state of Arkansas and to this region. Arkansas is a really amazing place, and I've said this on every show. Number one, because of its people. Number two, because of its geographical proximity in the middle of the country.
Yes, sir.
There's several opportunities on rail, sky, river, land, all right here in this state of 3 million people. So you being a border town man, but spending time and raising your family between Roland and Fort Smith, we've got a treasure in you, and we're appreciative of that. And to all the folks at Arvest Bank, especially my brother, Mr. Witherspoon, Ron, and the work he's doing here in Central Arkansas, we thank you. I heard you mention as we wrap up, Arkansas has some things that it can grow in, and my political hat came on because you were speaking education and access and key words. And while we have those challenges, I have no doubt that our leadership and our government and bankers and executives like yourself will continue to work to make us stronger. So folks, until next time, I hope, as always, that the information shared with you today in this episode will leave you stronger than you were before you tuned in today. Until next time, thank you for watching Stronger with Armstrong. We appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Thank you for watching. Please be sure to follow us on all social media platforms, streaming platforms, and be sure to subscribe.